If you are like most people who have not prepared for a world with advanced technology, especially humanoid robots, think again. Bernd Oyvind Bornish, the boss of 1X Robotics, says that introducing humanoid robots with human-like appearances can be a boon and a bane. First established in 2014 in Norway, 1X Robotics is one of the leaders in robotics. They introduced the first humanoid, Eve, and their next iteration, Neo, is pushing boundaries. However, this advancement exposes great risks and benefits to our daily lives.
But I mean, as a kid, I loved tinkering, taking things apart, building it again, like building electromechanical systems, things that move, and really combine that with an interest in gaming and game engine design, and writing a lot of code. And at some point, just kind of connected the dots, right, of how incredibly engaging it is when you write some code and you see something move. Not just draw something on the screen, something actually moves. And that's always tickled my brain in the right kind of manner. And for some strange reason, I got into this very early, as I was a kid.
Wow.
I want to create humanoid robotics, that's all I'm going to do. It's
You
my
knew that when you
lifelong
were a
passion.
kid.
I knew it from the beginning. I was supposed to go to Japan and study robotics in Japan because, Honda Asimo and Japan was so early on this, and they had some incredibly beautiful machines, 25 years ahead of their time. And then they kind of fell behind a bit, and I never ended up going to Japan, or I ended up going to Japan, but not for school. But yeah, I'm incredibly lucky, right? I get to do what I've always wanted to do. And I think we don't appreciate enough how lucky we are to be alive right now.
Yeah.
Because humanity is going through this incredible shift.
Bernd Oyvind Bornish explains how his passion for robotics began as a child. Since I was young, I loved building and coding, watching machines come to life. I knew I wanted to make humanoid robots. It's been my lifelong dream. This early fascination laid the foundation for a vision for Bernd. Robots that have locomotion, cognition, learning, and social capabilities like that of human beings. This kind of technology is what we call humanoid robots. I was supposed to study robotics in Japan, he explains. Their early work was 25 years ahead of their time, but I took a different path. Today, we're picking up where they left off and pushing the boundaries even further. But how does a dream like that come to reality? And what challenges come with creating robots designed to function in human environments?
I had this, when I just started university, I had a side gig job just to make ends meet. And I was cleaning for elderly people. And it was actually really sad because it struck me how many of the people I came to that had already cleaned. Even though they were pretty old, so they really struggled to do this. But then they could spend that 20 minutes where I was supposed to be there to just sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk to someone. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? When we look at this aging demography we have now, the shrinking working age, and we see it very, very well in healthcare, where we aren't able to give people dignity as they age. But I mean, it's all across society. And in the next decade, or even just next few years, we need to have this incredible increase in productivity across society if we're going to be able to increase our standard of living, or at least keep it.
As the interview progressed, the CEO revealed how a deeply personal experience shaped the mission behind 1X Robotics. When I just started university, I had a side job cleaning for elderly people. It was actually really sad because so many of them had already cleaned, even though they were quite old and clearly struggled to do it. They would use the 20 minutes I was supposed to be there to just sit down, have a cup of coffee, and talk to someone. This experience opened his eyes to a growing societal problem. Elderly workers, few employees, and a lack of resources to provide care. Humanoid robots can help solve this, he says. They're not just about replacing physical labor, they're about creating more time for human connection and care. That's the real mission driving us. However, as with any great potential, it does mean great responsibility. The CEO emphasizes that integrating robotics into the human environment is a huge task that must be designed well and approached ethically.
When we developed Eve, the first version, it's kind of a testing platform for everything that we've developed in-house, because we're fully vertically integrated. So we create everything from the motors and the tendon-like drives inspired by muscle that makes our robot move the way they move. all of this technology got matured and tested out in Eve. We produced almost 100 of them. We deployed them in a lot of different applications, including the home. I had one at home that was really fun. It's kind of like getting a third child. Wasn't fully working yet, but it could do some useful stuff, and it was really fun.
Unlike kids. I mean, they can't do, if you say it's like a third child.
It was less work to get the robot to pick something up than to get the kids to pick something up.
Okay.
So something's going right. But anyway, it's, I mean, that's the verification of all the technology that now is the second generation going into Neo. And that's 10 years of hardcore R&D going into that and manufacturing development. So
it's fantastic.
Glad we laid the foundations early enough to really hit the wave now when things are happening.
Neo is now a culmination of more than 10 years of research and development. In an interview, Bernd highlighted that Neo learned everything from Eve, the first-generation humanoid robot. Eve was a testing ground for organics such as tendon-based drives modeled from human muscles. He says Neo was a great improvement over its predecessors as a base design ready to be tested in real-life environments like homes and hospitals. The CEO also joked that he tried practicing at home with Neo, similar to having a third child. He says that, like Eve, it is not perfect but can do several things. Neo, however, is more than functional. It has been meticulously designed to work safely and seamlessly in human spaces. Years of rigorous research and development have made it a transformative machine capable of operating in homes, hospitals, and factories. The CEO emphasized the potential societal impact of humanoid robots, describing them as much more than machines. He noted their ability to redefine how humans interact with technology, while stressing the importance of responsible development. To address the complexities of training humanoid robots for human spaces, the CEO highlighted the role of simulation platforms like NVIDIA's Isaac Sim trademark. He explained that Isaac Sim provides a virtual environment where robots can be trained without real-world risks. Tools like this, he said, allow robots to learn how to navigate safely, significantly reducing dangers before deployment. The CEO also pointed out that humanoid robots like Neo have the potential to revolutionize lives, but also pose challenges. He left viewers with the thought that while the future is both exciting and uncertain, it's one worth preparing for.
So talking about your R&D process and how you got from A to where you are now, you described that when you get started, you applied the first principle approach that helped you to, gave you a mindset to overcome problems. And we have also seen many robotic companies that actually fail because they're over-engineering. How did you do it when you got started, and how have you applied it during your R&D process?
So we talked a bit about Honda Asimo, right? And the early work from humanoids from Honda. And it's just a good example of not first principle thinking. So when I started the company, I really sat down and why did all these systems fail? And to me, it really comes down to two things. It's, if you're going to do this, your system has to be very cost effective. It only makes sense at scale. It's a general autonomous of work. You can do anything. It's kind of like a computer, right? In that computers are super good at anything. And if you bring up your laptop to write some document in Word, man, is that a complicated device to write something. That makes no sense. But it's still the cheapest device to write something on because it's got such a scale. So it's cheap, it's high quality, there's an ecosystem. Humanoids are the same. And that means it has to be cost effective. So start from day one, cost effective. What does that mean? Well, if it weighs 30 kilograms and all of your competitors' robots weigh 90, that's 1/3 of the raw materials. It's clearly going to be cheaper, right? How do you reduce part count? And the entire rationale for why we did our own type of drive technology with motors and tendons, more like muscles, is that nothing moves fast then. In the human body, almost nothing moves fast. And this means that you don't have to be accurate. Right? So now your parts don't need to be special alloys, don't need to be super accurate in machining or tolerances when assembling. And you can from a first principles approach, do so much to reduce cost. And these things that you do day one, and then you spend 10 years refining this technology, if you picked the wrong direction, you got to start over.
Yeah.
So these make sure that your business makes sense from day one, and make sure that once you actually succeed, it's one hell of a unit economics thing.
Yeah.
And it's just going to really take off. So yeah, planning back from success, basically, right?
Yeah.
And then thinking first principles.
Did you find the right path directly, or have you sort of moved forward and had to go back and do it again?
On the technology, we found the right path directly.
Yeah.
But we were told repeatedly for 7 years, the first 7 years, that it was the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And the only reason it worked out was because we didn't give up.
Yeah.
And it's just grinding and grit, right? And I think one of the most important advices I can give to other founders and startups is the power of having conviction on something and not giving up. That's a startup, right? You can't make multiple bets. That's what the big ones do. You make one bet with super high conviction, and either it works or you're dead. And I think most startups die because you gave up on your conviction and you watered out what you originally tried to do.
Yeah.
So you gotta just like stay with it.
Building humanoid robots isn't just about innovation. It's about practicality. The CEO emphasizes how a first principles approach has guided their work. From the beginning, we focused on cost effectiveness and scalability. For instance, Neo weighs a third of what competitors' robots do, which means fewer raw materials and lower costs. Our tendon-driven system mimics human muscles, allowing us to use simpler, less expensive parts without compromising functionality. This approach has enabled 1X Robotics to design robots that are both advanced and accessible. Humanoid robots only make sense at scale, he says. They need to be cost-effective and adaptable to a wide range of tasks. Otherwise, they're just expensive prototypes. Despite early skepticism, the team's conviction never wavered. For 7 years, people told us we were on the wrong path. But startups succeed by sticking to their vision. Today, we're seeing the results of that persistence. The CEO also explains why making cost-effective humanoids is essential for widespread adoption. Humanoid robots need to be affordable to make a real impact. From the beginning, we've focused on reducing part counts, using lightweight materials, and streamlining production. This allows us to scale without compromising quality or functionality.
Usually when a robot moves,
Yeah.
there's an enormous amount of energy in it. And it's just like when a robot arm moves, inside there's a motor and a gear.
Yeah.
And like say it's 100 to 1 gear, that means the motor is spinning 100 times faster than your arm is moving. And now there's a squared relationship between energy and velocity. We all learned this in school, right? A car that goes twice as fast is 4 times as dangerous. This is also true here, and this is why industrial robots are in cages and why they're incredibly dangerous, even though they're not necessarily strong. That's why we didn't build the robots like that, right? We build them like humans, and if we run into each other around the corner because we were really hurrying to get up on stage here, that's kind of painful, might be a bit awkward, but we're not afraid of dying. And the same should be true for robots. So we've made the robot pretty safe in itself, very lightweight, compliant, soft, all these things. Now, that being said, there's a lot of issues with safety that we're still working on with respect to how do we ensure the robot doesn't ever do anything that could be harmful. Like the robot is safe, but it's not safe if it has like, I don't know, a very hot cup of coffee, right?
Yeah.
And then it's the cybersecurity and all these things. But luckily, these things aren't new. There's like, whether you're making autonomous cars or you're making like a lot of different products, these things are really well established, and there's well established standards on how to secure and make sure that this is safe. So we're going to make sure you're safe with your robot, and also that it's not something you would ever live it out, right?
Okay.
It's a very sticky product. Once you don't have to do stuff at home anymore,
No,
it's very hard to go back. It's a very sticky product.
Oh, I can just imagine.
Designing safe humanoid robots is one of 1X Robotics' core missions. The CEO explains why safety is built into their robots from the ground up. Industrial robots are kept in cages for a reason. They're powerful and potentially dangerous. The energy in their movements can cause serious harm. That's why we've designed our humanoids to be inherently safe, lightweight, and compliant, like humans. If one bumps into you, it's awkward, but not life-threatening. The prospect of having a humanoid robot in your home raises important questions about safety. The CEO reassures potential users. Neo is built with multiple fail-safes and rigorous safety protocols. I have kids and pets, and Neo operates in our home with no issues. It's designed not just to function, but to be trusted. However, safety doesn't end with physical design. While the robot itself is safe, we need to address broader safety concerns, like ensuring it doesn't do anything harmful, such as spilling a hot cup of coffee. Cybersecurity is another big area of focus, but fortunately these issues aren't unique to robots. Established standards from industries like autonomous vehicles provide a solid foundation. The commitment to safety is clear. We're making sure these robots are secure and reliable so you can trust them in your home. And once you experience the convenience of not having to handle certain tasks, it's hard to go back. It's a very sticky product.
Get all the data needed for intelligence, because intelligence comes from the diversity of all the different tasks that we do every day in completely different scenes and settings every day, because our world is always changing. This doesn't happen in a factory. And then use that to create an abundance of labor. That's our mission, right? We want to create an abundance of labor through safe, intelligent humanoids. And I think having an extremely clear mission is such a gift. So we have to use it. Most companies struggle with this. We don't. We know exactly what to do. Like, as an employee, you wake up and you're like, am I contributing towards this today or am I not? And this gives you the ability to have a super high agency if you hire the right people. Because you don't need to tell them what to do. We all, like, you don't need to have all these alignment meetings. Everyone knows what we need to do. And how are you contributing, and go do it. And this, of course, does not work necessarily in manufacturing, which is way more operational. But it does work with management in this, right? And I don't think there's any free lunch here. As you become a manufacturing company, you will be forced towards more process. But I like to look at process as a necessary evil. You have to minimize it, or everything slows down, and you have to try to contain it. So, like, you have process in your manufacturing, but you try to not let that process mindset leak into your R&D, even though those departments need to work very tightly together. And I think, like, that interface is what's hard, right? And that's what most people struggle with. And I think we're doing a pretty good job on it. Other shout outs, like if you want to study someone who does this really well, I would say Tesla traditionally has been incredibly good at this.
Scaling a robotics company is no small feat. Despite these hurdles, 1X Robotics is expanding rapidly. The company now boasts a team of 177 people, growing by 10 to 20 employees each month. This growth has required a shift in focus. The CEO reflects on how 1X Robotics has managed this growth as his robotics company has grown from 10 people to over 170 and soon to 400, and how they have had to make sure their culture evolves without losing sight of the mission. The company has reinvented itself multiple times to stay on track. There were moments when we realized our culture wasn't aligning with our goals. We had to make difficult decisions, including letting go of people who weren't the right fit. Culture is critical. It's about low ego, respect, and a relentless focus on the mission. He explained that their mission provides the company with clarity, ensuring that everyone understands the goal of creating safe, intelligent humanoids capable of delivering an abundance of labor to the world. This clear focus, he noted, allows employees to take ownership and drive results without the need for excessive meetings or bureaucratic processes.
I don't think there's like any way to do it without suffering a lot. Yeah. So I think at this point, 3 times we kind of reinvented the company and said, like, okay, our culture is not going where we want it to go. This is not who we are. We need to remove a few people who are driving culture in the wrong direction, and we need to start this over. And I think those decisions are incredibly important. Like, you have, as you scale and as your company matures, you have 2 very important roles as a founder when it comes to this strategy. Is one, you have to make the right technological bets, right? So the world is changing and you need to not get left behind. This happened to a lot of robotics companies the last 5 years because they didn't catch the end-to-end learning, kind of like all in on big neural networks wave, and they're still stuck with like internal conflict. Very talented people that want to do classical controls and like classical robotics, and then you have the AI people over here and they're kind of competing camps and like everything's a mess. We didn't do that. We said, like, this is what we're doing. The only thing that will get us fully there to something that's so intelligent that it can do anything is the learning approach. Yeah. And you're in or you're out. And then that's it, right? And the same comes to culture. Yeah. You have to just, you're in or you're out. Like, here's the culture. And it's not for everyone, not at all. Like, I think the most important thing I do, like up until we were 150 people roughly, I interviewed everyone. Yeah. And the great filter was basically just, this is like joining the World Cup, potentially winning team in the World Cup in soccer. And that means it's going to be a heck of a lot of work and a lot of fun. And you'll learn so much. But we're doing this to win. And if that's not for you, if you're not in a situation in life where that works for you, then this is not the place for you. It doesn't matter how good you are, because those are the expectations we set, and here's everything we give back that makes it worth it to you. But like brutally honest expectation management, and know who you are. Like, what is your culture? And to us, the culture is the mission, and how we're oriented on the mission, how it's only low ego, knowledge-based respect, and a very flat organization with minimum process. That's like who we are. That doesn't fit for most people. It fits for a subset of people that thrive in this like huge amount of agency and autonomy and work really hard.
Yeah.
For 1X Robotics, success depends on the big swings in technology choices. The CEO shares how 1X Robotics culture had to change to achieve their mission. The company has reinvented itself multiple times to stay on track. At this point, we've reinvented the company 3 times, saying, okay, our culture is not going where we want it to go. This is not who we are. We had to remove a few people driving the culture in the wrong direction and start over. He adds, as a founder, you have 2 critical roles, making the right technological bets and setting the cultural direction. The world is changing and you can't afford to get left behind. Many robotics companies missed the wave of end-to-end learning and big neural networks. Now they're stuck with internal conflicts, classical robotics versus AI, competing camps, and no clear direction. We avoided that by committing fully to the learning approach. You're either in or you're out, and that's it.
You have the obvious things, like try to deliver on what you promise and show over time that if you get money, you actually do what you said you were going to do. That's pretty important. I think we've been very frugal. So we've raised about $150 million so far in total, and run a company for 10 years, inventing everything from core technology in motors and electronics and sensors to manufacturing of all of these things and the AI. So I think we've been very capital efficient, and that really helps. Because there's always these waves, right? And you have like, oh, now capital is just flowing in because everyone is realizing that humanoids is going to happen, and you have to have a bet in this space because it's going to be so big. But it hasn't always been like that, and it mightn't necessarily be like that in 2 years. Maybe things took slightly longer. I don't think they will, but like maybe they do, right? You never know. And are you still around then, right? So that's be frugal. And then of course, it's meeting the right people. That's always it. I think for us, I owe a lot to Sam. We met like end of 2021, summer 2021, and spent a lot of time getting to know each other. And like, also, he's also a big believer in this, right? AI is going to get physical, and that's a big name to have on your cap table, right? OpenAI.
1X Robotics caught a lot of attention from investors, such as OpenAI. The CEO shares the keys to their fundraising success. You have to deliver on what you promise and show over time that if you get money, you actually do what you said you were going to do. That's pretty important. I think we've been very frugal. We've raised about $150 million in total over 10 years, and we used that to invent everything, from core technology like motors, electronics, and sensors to manufacturing and AI. He credits building strong relationships, such as with OpenAI's Sam Altman, as pivotal. Another part is meeting the right people. For us, I owe a lot to Sam Altman. We met in the summer of 2021, spent a lot of time getting to know each other, and he's a big believer in this vision that AI is going to get physical. Having OpenAI on our cap table really helped.
But of course, to us now, that's not the way the world works at all. And neither was it for energy before we really mastered how to harvest energy. And I'm not saying we're done yet on the energy front, but we're pretty good at it. And that means it's hard to define, right? What is the impact? I think we're going to go to a post-scarcity type economy. We're not going to any longer be constrained by labor. And you can think about it a bit like if you could prompt engineer physical reality to do anything, right? So we're starting to get used to being able to type a few words, and I can study a new field by dragging in and searching a lot of like the best articles, everything, understand, like basically have someone write a PhD for me in a few minutes. You can do the same in the physical world. Whether it's cleaning your house or manufacturing cars or making a beautiful garden, right? And I think that's gonna redefine human nature in the same manner that we did with like the printing press or the car or agriculture or similar technologies.
The CEO paints a bold picture of the future, where humanoid robots redefine the economy. Society is built on 3 pillars: harvesting energy, turning it into products and services, and consuming them. We've mastered energy. Power is so cheap and abundant today that it would have been unimaginable a century ago. I believe we're on the brink of doing the same with labor. He envisioned a time when robots would eliminate the need for physically demanding tasks. He painted a picture of a world where robots could clean a house, build a car, design a beautiful landscape, or even perform a dance. In essence, he said, this would change human nature and framework beyond our thinking. Reflecting on his journey, the CEO expresses gratitude for being part of this moment in history. I feel incredibly lucky to be alive right now, at the intersection of AI and robotics. If I'd been born 10 years earlier, I would have had the same passion but lacked the tools to make it real. Timing is everything. As the session concluded, he emphasized that humanoid robots are more than just problem-solving tools. They are about creating a new world.
And we're so good at harvesting energy. And if you ask someone from like 1890 or something and you said like, oh, in 2024, you can buy like a kilowatt of power for 10 cents, they would never believe you. It's just unfathomable, the amount of power that is.
It can range from the post-scarcity economy to redesigning cooperation between man and the invented kinds of tools. Robots. While robots like Neo appear in people's daily lives at their homes and workplaces, they make technology more and more a part of everyday human life. Are humanoid robots the solutions we eagerly await, or are they new problem-defining technologies? Can humanoid robots be the solution for societal problems, or are they the creation of new ones? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned as we monitor the work of 1X Robotics and their effort to transform the future of labor.